Hey folks, how's it going? Plastic Guy here, coming back with another figure review, and today we're taking a look at another amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield S.H Figuarts bootleg action figure, but this time coming to us from CT Toys. At this point, CT Toys have pretty much proved themselves to be the best bootleg action figure company of all time. Not like that would be an overly hard feat, but CT Toys just keep proving themselves time and time again. We've taken a look at a few of those knockoffs here on the channel, and when they first announced that they were doing an Andrew Garfield bootleg, I was super hyped, but I got even more stoked to get this thing in hand after taking a look at the AKM knockoff last week here on the channel, because I think that was definitely probably the worst action figure I've ever held in my hands. In that video, however, I did say, even though I think that the SHF Andrew Garfield overall is a great figure, especially if you're a fan of those movies, you're a fan of that Spider-Man, I would recommend picking the legitimate SHF up. That aside, I do think it does have the most shortcomings of any SHF that I do have when you compare it to the other Spider-Man SHF figures and even the likes of the movie Deadpool. I do feel like it falls short a wee bit when it comes to the proportions of that figure, mostly in the neck area, because the neck is just crazy long. And so these are things that I was hoping that CT Toys might improve on when they were giving us our bootleg, because we do know that we are getting an original Andrew Garfield head sculpt with this figure. Similar to the Spider-Man 2099 Miguel O'Hara bootleg, they gave us two original head sculpts with that piece, and now we're getting an original Andrew Garfield Peter Parker head sculpt with this bootleg as well. Again, the question is, how good are those head sculpts and this bootleg overall gonna be? And so I cannot wait to jump right into this video. So with that being said, let's not wait any longer. Let me know down in the comment section below, guys, are you gonna be picking this Andrew Garfield CT Toys bootleg up? What bootleg do you want to see from CT Toys next? Of course, we got the black suited Toby, the Miguel O'Hara, Miles Morales, we're now getting Andrew. I feel like the possibilities, there's a long list of them. I'm really hoping for a final swing red and blue Tom Holland suit. I love that legitimate SHF final swing suit, and so it'd be really cool to see CT Toys add Tom Holland in with Toby and Andrew here. But let's not wait any longer, let's take a closer look at our Andrew Garfield knockoff. So to take a closer look at our bootleg packaging first, I do really like what they've done here. With the Friendly Neighbourhood Spider-Man Toby figure, they strayed away from that original S.H Figuarts packaging and they gave us a somewhat original design. With this one, they were definitely mimicking the Hot Toys box, but shrunk it down to SHF scale. And they've copied that with Andrew Garfield's costume here. However, there isn't any Hot Toys packaging that I've ever seen that looks like this. So again, it is somewhat original, unique to CT Toys, and I really like how they've went down this direction, and I think these two look really cool next to one another. To bring in the original packaging, we can see that it of course is totally different to the original SHF box, and I do think that is a nice touch. This is of course based off Andrew Garfield's suit design. I really like the logo in the front. It says The Amazing Spider-Man, CT Toys logo in the bottom right. At the top we have a sticker slapped on here, but it does say The Amazing Spider-Man. Here is the side of the box, the other side of the box, and the back of the packaging. And to bring in the original box again, we can see that the sides are the same to the original packaging, as well as the back. Oh, actually, I did not notice that. And that noise that just came out of my mouth was, whoa! But yeah, that is pretty cool. We've got a different pose in the middle here, so the poses are slightly switched up, not exactly the same, but of course there are a lot of similarities here. So getting this thing out of the box, let's take a closer look at what we get with our CT Toys replica. Apart from that Peter Parker head sculpt, it does look like all the accessories and interchangeable parts are really accurate to the original, so let's run through them. And so we get the two medium length webbed weapon accessories, and I think both of these look really good. Good sculpt to them, good length, and yeah, accurate to the original. The two shorter webbed whips, and then we get the longer web line, which will port into the web holding hand. And again, I'm really happy to get these web accessories with our knockoff figures for that cheaper price point. These web accessories can be used with lots of other different Spidey figures, and so I'm always happy to get them, especially at this quality. They're really accurate to the original. I like the translucency, and the sculpt is pretty spot on. We get the two finger pointing hands, and look at the paint application on this. That is really clean. These look great. Two web whipping hands, again looking really clean. And on this one on the right, you can see they've even managed to include those wee sculpted web shooters. If I bring in the original SHF web whipping hand here, you can see that that is a wee detail that they also included, and CT Toys have managed to replicate that here on their bootleg. Two relaxed loose hands, two more posed wall crawling sort of hands, and then lastly we get these more open hands which you could use for wall crawling or in air swinging poses, and all these interchangeable hands look absolutely superb. A disappointment, I suppose, would be that again we aren't getting any fisted hands, something that a lot of folk really wanted to be included in the original Amazing Spider-Man SHF was some fisted hands. We didn't get them, and that is something I thought CT Toys would maybe include with this bootleg, but unfortunately they haven't, and I can't really hold that against them. They're a bootleg action figure company, but it certainly would have been nice to have gotten a pair of fisted hands with our Andrew here. But the one thing CT Toys have given us that the original Figuarts didn't is this Peter Parker, Andrew Garfield head sculpt. And this looks really good. Bringing in the Marvel Legends, I will say the Marvel Legends is still on top. This Andrew Garfield head sculpt is near perfect in my eyes. I think they have done a fantastic job here, and the CT Toys doesn't compete. They both retailed at £20, so these are around the same price at retail. I don't know what Andrew goes for in the aftermarket at the moment, but I think you are better off with your Andrew Garfield head sculpt here. However, for a bootleg action figure company, CT Toys have not done bad at all, especially for a head sculpt more suited to the SHF figure. I think this looks really good. It is perhaps on the big side. I think, again, bringing in the Marvel Legends here, I don't think this head sculpt is much smaller than the Marvel Legends, and the biggest problem for me with using the Marvel Legends head sculpt on the original SHF was that it was just slightly too big. And I think it's just the same with this CT Toys figure here. The big hope was for the CT Toys Andrew head sculpt to fit really nicely on that legitimate original SHF. But for me, it is still slightly on the big side. It works, it looks good, but still a bit too big for my liking. However, bringing in the AKM bootleg, you can see that I think the CT Toys is much better. The paints they've used here just blow the AKM out of the water. The sculpt isn't bad here. I would love to see someone customise this. I think they could do a great job because the sculpt's there, but definitely I think CT Toys is looking a lot better overall. However, I'm not quite sure how well it works in terms of like a custom Andrew head sculpt due to its size. The first thing I want to do is take this whole neck piece off. We do have the half-necked SHF sculpt here. We'll put it on the original and see how it looks. So before swapping the heads, I did just want to take a quick look at the necks here. Here is our CT Toys on the right with their original on the left, and the necks do look to be around the exact same size. So again, something I was hoping CT Toys was going to do would be shorten that neck, but it looks pretty much identical. And so here is our CT Toys neck and head sculpt on the original SHF figure, and it doesn't quite work as well as I'd hope. The neck sculpt definitely has a different shade of red to the original figure here, and the head, it looks, I guess again, I think the neck is just a wee bit too long overall, and the head is just a touch too big. It's not bad, I don't dislike it, but yeah, I was hoping that it was going to be a bit better. It is a wee bit of a struggle to get the CT Toys neck on this original figure peg, and it is quite disjointed. You can see there is some mad gappage if you don't play around with that neck and get it sitting flush. So you do want to kind of push it forward a wee bit, and then even getting the neck to kind of sit flush on that neck sculpt can be a wee bit of a nuisance. But again, I think the problem for me lies in the neck. I think the neck is too long on the CT Toys and the original figure, and if you can imagine that neck was just a wee bit shorter, I think this would look a lot better. I was then gonna put the head sculpt on the original SHF neck sculpt, but you can see the peg is in the head system of the CT Toys, and there's also a peg in the neck system of the original. So you would have to pull one of these out to make sure that this sits then on top of one another, but not something that I'm really willing to do at this point in time. Looking at the bootleg as a whole with the original head sculpt on it, straight away this is a really good knockoff action figure, again from CT Toys. This is good, man. The quality of it overall, this feels really close to the original. To talk about the Miguel O'Hara again, the Spider-Man 2099 CT Toys bootleg, straight away it felt like a Happy Meal toy. It felt cheap and nasty. The CT Toys Toby definitely felt better, but in terms of the feel and overall quality of the plastic here, I think this is maybe the best we've seen from CT Toys. All the joints are really tight, nothing is loose on this thing, and the quality of it just feels really, really nice, and so straight away you can tell that this is going to be a better knockoff. Looking at the head sculpt first, I think we can see an immediate problem, and that is in the white of the eyes. To bring in the original Figuarts here, we can see that the white is so much more prominent on that legitimate figure. The sculpt itself of the CT Toys is really accurate to that original. I mean, the shape of it is great. It looks pretty much picture perfect in terms of like the proportions and the symmetry there, but unfortunately the colours are just totally off in the lenses, and so again it might be a case of customising the whites on this to make it look a lot better. But see the red and the blue in the CT Toys? I don't know, I don't want to glaze this thing too much, but I think I might honestly prefer the red that they've used on this bootleg when you compare it to the original SHF here. Definitely different shades to the red and the blue, and I don't know what one looks better. I think when you're looking at the paint lines here, in this left shoulder you can see that it gets kind of sloppy, it looks very dark, and that is the biggest kind of downfall I've seen of the CT Toys so far. Everything else looks really good, really accurate to the original, apart from the lenses, but yeah, this left shoulder looks extremely dark and the web lines get pretty sloppy. But everywhere else, this is really, really accurate to the original, and it looks really kind of spot on. The back logos here, again, you can see the colour of the red that they've used is different. I do think the logo here does look better on the original in terms of the paint and the shine and everything, but again, they've done a really good job at replicating the costume of the SHF. I think this looks brilliant. Again, CT Toys kind of blurring the lines between the original figure and how good an import can be, and it's shown off a lot in this Andrew Garfield figure. As always with knockoffs, you are going to have these slight differences, the lenses, the kind of misprint on the shoulder, but they have done a great job, man. You can see the web shooters sculpted into the arms here. You've even got like a wee bit of paint on them. Get it in the other arm here. The logo in the front looks really good, really crisp, and again, all these joints are tight. They're not going to be too loose. This thing's going to hold a pose. I've moved it around very briefly and I am impressed. Like, you are going to get some real dynamic poses with this Andrew bootleg for 20 bucks. If you can look past the white in the lenses and expect a Andrew head sculpt that's going to be a bit on the big side in my eyes, then there's nothing stopping you from picking this thing up. I am honestly really impressed with CT Toys again, and I think it's time to compare this to some of the other figures in the collection. So first up, of course, we need to stand him next to the original legitimate S.H Figuarts figure here, and we can see that with a lot of these CT Toys bootlegs, the CT Toys is slightly smaller when it comes to their proportions. He's standing slightly smaller, and when it comes to like the arms, the fists and everything, they are slightly smaller in scale. Apart from that, we do have the paint differences, and I don't think it's really a negative in CT Toys. These are just two different shades of red and blue, and I think both look good for the most part. The biggest problem, of course, with our CT Toys is the white in the lenses. I was not expecting that. Maybe that is just an issue with my specific copy. If you have also picked up this CT Toys Andrew figure, let me know if your lenses are the same as mine, or are they nice and white like the original. That is a good point though. I do get a lot of comments of people saying I've picked up this bootleg and it's really loose, or does yours do this, mine does this. When we're talking about bootlegs, they aren't going to be as consistent as legitimate figures. Someone could pick up a bootleg and it's going to be great quality, and then the next person could get one and it could fall apart. The QC control with bootleg action figures just is non-existent, and so it really is your luck when you're picking these things up, and that's something to bear in mind. Even though I'm saying that this is a really good bootleg, I'm talking more about my specific copy. And that's something just to be wary of when you are buying knockoffs. Always beware that it is a knockoff and the quality could really differ from someone else's. But again, for the most part, this is looking really good. And the biggest problem with the head sculpt and the white lenses can be fixed by then just swapping over to your original CT Toys Andrew Garfield SHF head sculpt. Here is our CT Toys knockoff next to the AKM Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man bootleg. And then here is our CT Toys SHF bootleg next to the Marvel Legends. Again, both of these retailing for the same price point. And although I do like what CT Toys have attempted to do here, I'll be honest, you know, playing around with them in hand, comparing them to these other figures, although overall for the £20 price mark I do think it is a decent figure, I don't think it has been executed as much as I hoped for. When seeing those original figures, it looked like it was gelling quite nicely, but the proportions definitely seem a bit off here, and nothing's really coming close to that original Marvel Legends Andrew Garfield head sculpt. And then to compare our CT Toys Andrew next to CT Toys Toby, I think these guys look pretty good next to one another. They scale really well. You can tell they're both bootlegs, but they are good quality bootlegs, and again, they're doing a good job at replicating the original, but nothing is going to beat the original. I'm interested to see what a Tom Holland CT Toys figure would look like, and then complete the Spider-Man trio in CT Toys form. And then here we've got the same two figures, but with their mask sculpt on. And so there we have it for our CT Toys Amazing Spider-Man bootleg action figure. And I think I got my hopes up a bit too high, and it's just not quite paid off as much as I'd like it to. I think overall it's a good bootleg, and they've managed to replicate the figure itself pretty well. But the biggest reason I wanted to pick this CT Toys version up was for that Andrew Garfield head sculpt, and I was also hoping it was going to make some improvements on the proportions, just based on what CT Toys have given us in the past with that original black suited Toby figure, and then the Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man 29 with the much improved Miguel O'Hara head sculpts. I thought that this Andrew Garfield figure would be on the same sort of wavelength with those figures, where they're pleasing the fans with what they desired from the original legitimate figure. But what we really get here is a figure with very much similar proportions, no fisted hands, an Andrew Garfield head sculpt that is too big, to be honest. I mean, at that point you might as well just be using the Marvel Legends head sculpt on the original SHF, which for me kind of makes this thing feel a wee bit redundant. But it's not bad. For £20 for what we're getting here, it is good. I just think for me, for what I wanted, I'm not getting that full benefit from what I was expecting. But again, it does a good job at replicating the original. It's got all the range of movement and articulation here. All the joints are nice and stiff, nothing feels loose, it's going to hold a pose. The biggest issue really with my hopes and desires to the side, I think, is the white lenses on that original head sculpt. If they came and they were nice and white like the original, then really this thing would be great. There is just a couple letdowns with it, but for £20 I think CT Toys have produced another really good quality bootleg. It's just not quite what I had hoped. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and while you're down there guys, if you could do me a massive favour, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, then please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to leave the link to my Instagram in the description below, where I'll definitely be posting some pictures of this CT Toys Andrew up over there very soon. It'd mean a lot if you could hop on over there and check it out. It means a lot to me that you've watched this video right here guys. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to hop on over to the channel page, check out any of my other videos, or click one of the two that are going to pop up at the end screen here. Again guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, I'll catch yous on the flip flop later. Cheers.